Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Chelsea and I'm a backpacker who went to Morocco earlier this year. I was there during March and April time. So I have lots of tips and tricks to share with you to make your trip to Morocco as safe and as easy as possible. So for this first section of the video, I'm basically going to be taking you through my itinerary. So I'm going to be telling you where I flew in and out of. I'm going to be telling you how I got between each of the cities in Morocco, where I went, how long I stayed in each place, where I stayed in each place and whether I'd recommend staying there, food recommendations, and also tour/leisure recommendations. So I first flew into Fez. Honestly, I do think that Fez is actually a really good city to start in because it's easy to get to and it's very intense. Now that probably sounds a bit scary if you're going solo traveling for the first time, but it's kind of like throwing you in the deep end. Like, you get the most intense part of Morocco out of the way, and then from there it just gets easier. I just feel like it prepared me for the entire country. Everyone's talking to me, everyone's like asking me to come in their shops, like everyone is talking to me, everyone is staring at me, especially if you're vlogging. People will really stare at you, wave in your videos, do the peace sign, say fish and chips.
Fish and chips.
Yes, it's an intense city. The Medina is very narrow. Really immerse yourself in the Moroccan culture and just go to the most intense place first. That's my personal view on it. Obviously you could start somewhere easier like Tangier. So I found that when I was in Fez, when I was on my own, I got a lot more attention than when I was with a group. I was a big target for people to try and get me to come into their shops and buy things because I'm a solo female. And so like, yeah, everyone was talking to me and trying to get me to come in their shops, and a lot of them I would ignore because my hostel owner told me to just ignore people. So I did, but I felt incredibly rude. But honestly, it's the best way to do it. Otherwise you're just not gonna get anywhere because people will literally waste your time talking to you to then say, come with me, come in my shop. There were 2 times in Fez that I felt unsafe. That was when I was on my own because random men would come up to me and start talking to me and then be like, come with me and I'll show you something. And I would say, no, I'm fine, I don't want to go anywhere. Like, it's to go to their shop basically, or to get you to give them a tip. Morocco isn't a place for violent crime. It's more like theft is the kind of crime that you would have in Morocco rather than any violent crime. So I wasn't scared that they were necessarily going to kill me. You're always cautious as a solo female traveler, so I never wanted to go anywhere when people would offer to show me places. One guy did take me on a tour around Fez. I knew that he was going to ask for a tip and I didn't have any small cash. And there was no way that I was going to give him, I can't even remember what the size of the currency is. Is it 20? No, not 20 dirham. 200 dirham? It's like a £20 note. And like, I wasn't going to give him £20 for showing me like a couple of places in the city. Like, that just wasn't going to happen. So yeah, maybe carry small change in Fez if you're worried about people asking for tips. I personally have absolutely no shame in saying no to people because I don't feel like they actually help me. They sort of force me to do something that I don't want to do, so I'm not going to pay them for that. That's my thinking. So I have no shame in saying no, I'm not going to give you any money. You didn't help me. But yeah, if you don't like the conflict there, then make sure you have small change in Fez. Around the whole of Morocco, but Fez was the worst place for this. Also, if you're walking with purpose, people will be less likely to pounce on you. Also, just want to recommend that if you do get taken on a tour in Fez, make sure that you can always see other people in the area, because obviously if it's just you and a stranger in a place, something could happen and no one is going to know, no one's going to be there to help you. So I always made sure that I could see like at least like 2 other groups of people when I was being taken on a tour. Also, don't feel like you need to give people tips because people will come up to you, they see that you're a tourist, they think maybe she needs some help. This happened to me quite a few times. Just things like this will happen. People will ask you for money, just have no shame, say no. So now for the good things about Fez. There are some like famous locations like the tanneries. Oh my gosh, I forgot the word for them then. The tanneries is a very famous thing in Fez. So like where they dye the leather, something like this. It stinks, it smells so bad in there, but it's worth seeing. And then also they have the Blue Gate, which is quite a well-known place to see in Fez. It's worth going up to the cemetery on the hill. I absolutely loved my hostel that I stayed in. I stayed in a hostel called Riyad Veris, and my stay in this hostel was very kindly gifted to me by the owner. But for anyone who is wanting to stay there, I'm pretty sure it's only about £5 or £6 a night, and that includes breakfast. In terms of the accommodation, like, it's a decent hostel. It's got a nice like rooftop terrace, it's got like free tea and coffee all day. The bed is like pretty decent, but it was really the hospitality that made this hostel. The hospitality was the best in any hostel that I've ever stayed in. Like, the owner of the hostel is so friendly. He gives you free breakfast, which is a good breakfast as well. It's a really good free breakfast. He also puts on activities every day. So when I was there was a storyteller on the first night, a free dinner. So literally on my second day, I hardly spent any money on food because I had a free breakfast and a free dinner from my hostel. And the free dinner was amazing. It was all vegetarian, which is just so good for someone like me, at least. He's just very good at being a host. I feel very welcome in this hostel. So yeah, I would highly recommend staying at this hostel in Fez. So I went for dinner on my first night to a place called Cafe Laglali, I think is how it's said. And basically I had a soup, I had a tagine, and then like typical Moroccan sweets and a tea. It all came to a very good price. I think it was literally like 50 dirham, which is like £4. So I'd recommend going there. The people who worked there as well were lovely. If you stay at Riyad Veris, which I highly recommend that you do, ask the owner about a hammam. I did a hammam there and it's a very local experience. The one in Fez I think is particularly good because it's cheaper than other places like in Marrakesh. It's a lot cheaper than the ones in Marrakesh actually, and there are no other tourists in this hammam. So for those of you who don't know what a hammam is, it's basically like a spa kind of experience. So you'll go into a warm room. It's not like a steam room as such, but it's like a warm, humid room that's not quite a steam room. Anyway, and basically what happens is like either you go with a friend and you like scrub each other or scrub yourselves, or if you are a tourist, you will probably have someone who does it for you. So much dead skin comes off, it's disgusting, but it's so good for you. Definitely ask about doing the hammam because it's a very local experience in Fez, and yeah, I would definitely recommend doing it. It's strange, but worth doing for the local experience. Literally me and the girl that I went with, we were the only tourists in there. Everyone else was Moroccan. Okay, so moving on to Chefchaouen. Chefchaouen was my favorite city in Morocco. I absolutely loved it. If you literally can only go to one place, I recommend Chefchaouen. It is beautiful. The whole city, well, not the whole city, the whole Medina is painted blue. No one really knows why. I asked a couple of different locals why. Some said because it's a cool color, so it keeps the heat out, which makes sense. Someone said because it stops mosquitoes. I don't really understand that one. I don't know why it would stop mosquitoes coming. Maybe they don't like the color blue. Someone else said that it's a Jewish color, and a lot of the Jews that came over from Spain during the Second World War settled there, so they painted it blue. So a couple of different reasons. I'm not really sure the actual one, but nevertheless it is beautiful, and I would recommend going to Chefchaouen and just turning off Google Maps. It's a very small Medina, so if you get lost you will accidentally find your way back to the center, so it's pretty easy. I literally just turned off my Google Maps and wandered around, and like you find like the main tourist square. That's where the Casbah is, which is the, I think, the oldest building in the Medina, and you can go in the Casbah, so I would recommend doing that. There is a tourist price in comparison to a Moroccan local price. You will find loads of cats in Chefchaouen and some nice, just really nice, wholesome people. Everyone in Chefchaouen was so nice. I went into a shop and asked a man, "Hi, do you know where this tea room is?" And he was like, "Oh yes, I think it's just down the street, but let me give you some tea." And he just gave me some tea for free and asked me to sign his book. It was so sweet. I love Moroccan tea, it's so good. While you're in Chefchaouen, make sure that you take a small hike up to the Spanish mosque. I'm pretty sure that the hike up there is only like 15 or 20 minutes. It wasn't long at all, and then you can watch the sunset up there, so make sure that you get there quite a bit before actual sunset because the sunset's behind the mountains, so to be able to see it you need to be there quite early. There is a place called Bab Sur. I highly recommend going and eating here. I think I ate here every day. I loved it. It was so cheap for the food. Like, I ate like a queen and literally paid like £3. Like it's just insane. It was so cheap, and like the best food that I had in Morocco, because being a vegan in Morocco, in the north, I started the trip and I was like, this is so easy. By the time I got to the south, it was actually pretty difficult to be vegan. Not impossible, but just like there were less vegetarian dishes that were interesting. Like in the south, it was just tagine and couscous. In Chefchaouen, I had a really nice chickpea thing, like a really nice lentil dish, and you just eat it with bread, and it was so nice. I don't know why they didn't make that everywhere, but yeah. Bab Sur was a great restaurant and very cheap. Also, you have an amazing view from this restaurant, so it's a win-win. The only place in Chefchaouen where I felt a little bit unsafe was a place called Mirador Chefchaouen. So I went to a lookout basically. I saw some goats on the way, it was so cute. But then I got to the lookout and I was like, oh, this is seeming a little bit dodgy, like no one's around, but I didn't want to turn back and miss out on like an incredible view just because I'm on my own. So I carried on going. And just the people, like, so basically you walk down some stairs, you cross the valley, and then you go back up the other side. And just like some of the people around there just looked dodgy. Like, I don't like to judge people by the way that they look, but they looked dodgy and I thought I was going to die. Okay, I did have a little fear for my life moment just then, so I'm gonna walk kind of quick. Like, some people looked at me like they legit wanted to kill me. Yeah, I walked fast in that area. I would recommend maybe if you're on your own, skipping the actual walk down the valley. You can go to the Mirador Chefchaouen, but just turn around and go back up the path rather than going all the way down and across the other side, because I just didn't feel safe. If you're in a group or you have some friends, sure, do it because it's a lot safer with other people. But if you are a solo traveler, I wouldn't recommend crossing the valley. I felt very unsafe and I didn't like it, and the view was not worth it because you get the same beautiful view from the top. You don't need to go into the valley to get the view. Like, it's not worth risking your life or your valuables. I don't think anyone would kill you there. Like, as I said earlier, Morocco is not a place for violent crime, but I know that there were 2 girls who were murdered in the Atlas Mountains. Was it the Atlas Mountains? I don't know, but just I had that thought in my head the whole time that I was in Morocco, so I was a little bit nervous in this little valley. But yeah, once I was out of there, I felt absolutely fine again. And other than that, that was actually outside of the Medina. Whenever I was in the Medina, I felt very safe. Okay, so I stayed at 2 hostels in Chefchaouen. The first one was called Casa Amina, and I stayed here purely because it was a private room. It was, however, very cold. So if you're going in the winter, maybe don't stay here. I don't think it's worth how cold it was in there. But if you're going in the summer, I think that this place would be really nice to stay. You get a private room, and I literally paid £6 a night for a private room. But I think that the second hostel that I stayed in was nicer. It was called Dadicliffe. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. I think I paid for the breakfast to be included on Hostel World. Breakfast wasn't incredible, but it wasn't bad. I would say it's worth having it included just so that you know that you can get food easily. The guy who owned it was very, very nice. We actually ended up sharing a taxi with him to Tangier, but yeah, so he is very nice. So again, the hospitality makes that place better. It was also warmer there. The Wi-Fi in both of them was not great, so if you need good Wi-Fi, like I did, I had a lesson and it was horrendous because the Wi-Fi was so bad. But yeah, if you need good Wi-Fi, then I wouldn't recommend these hostels. There is another hostel that when I was traveling in Morocco, a lot of people mentioned that they stayed here in Chefchaouen, and it's actually the hostel that I had originally booked before I found the private room one. A-Line hostel, that was it, yeah. So it has a 9.6 rating on Hostel World, which is why I had originally chosen it. I'm pretty sure was it breakfast? Yeah, free breakfast as well. I don't know what the breakfast is like, but it seems like a good choice. No one had any complaints that I spoke to, but the only thing is that it's actually outside of the Medina. So with Casa Amina and Dadicliffe, the good thing was that I was inside the Medina. So I was inside the blue area, whereas the A-Line hostel is just outside of the Medina. So you don't walk out of your door and then it's blue. You have to go into the Medina. So now moving on to Tangier. It is a beautiful Medina. It feels very safe. It's very wide and very modern. It feels like Spain meets Morocco. That is literally the vibe of Tangier. Like, it feels like I'm in the south of Spain, but like with a Moroccan culture to it. Yeah, it's very nice. You can see Spain from Tangier. It's also where you can get the ferry from Spain to Tangier. Tangier also has an airport, so you can fly into Tangier. So I stayed at a hostel called Beit Halis. I actually booked it for the wrong nights, but I emailed the guy and he was happy to move it for me, so good customer service there. In Tangier, the fort was cool, so I would recommend going there. We ate at a place called Cafe Al Khadra for breakfast, and it was cheap, but it wasn't amazing. Like, there wasn't a choice. Like, we were sat there waiting. I thought that he was going to bring out a menu, and he brought out eggs and bread. Yeah, so we didn't get a choice. I think we had like eggs, bread, coffee and orange juice, and obviously as a vegan I would not have ordered egg, but it came, so I ate it. But like, the man who worked there was sweet, and for like the price that we paid, I'm pretty sure it was like 20 dirham. For the price that we paid, like, it was decent. So if you're not vegan, then this is a good place for you. While you're in Tangier, I would highly recommend going and visiting the Hercules cave, and then there's a lookout just north of the cave. I'm not sure what it's called because I didn't go because it was raining. If you ask at the Beit Halas hostel, if you ask the owner, there is a little, not tour, but he can book you a taxi. If you get a group of like 4 of you, then it's like a decent price, and it would cost probably the same as whether getting your private taxi, but you get to go to the Hercules caves, the little lookout point, and then they'll take you back like on a scenic route. So it's a good idea, but there were only 3 of us. But yeah, the Hercules caves were my favorite part of Tangier, so I would highly recommend doing them. The Medina is very clean and I felt very safe while I was there. I don't remember eating anything fantastic to the point where I need to recommend it to you in Tangier. You're just gonna have to find your own places. I did have like a sandwich that had chips in it. That was weird. It was nice, but weird. Okay, so Casablanca is the next place that I went to. I stayed in Casablanca for only 1 night. I stayed in a hostel that was just outside of the Medina because I needed good Wi-Fi, and I needed to guarantee that I could have good Wi-Fi for my lessons because I teach English online. I paid a little bit extra so that I knew that I could get good Wi-Fi. There was free breakfast included in this hostel, but this hostel, it wasn't great. I think it was called Le Hostel Casablanca. The Wi-Fi wasn't even that good. Like, it was good enough just about for my lessons, but it wasn't great, and there were a couple of breakups. I also arrived at night. I did not feel safe. I went to the door, no one answered for like 5 minutes. Like, my taxi driver waited with me, which was really sweet. Like, he made sure that I got in the hostel before he left, which was really nice. No one answered for like 5 minutes. I was at the door ringing the bell in the dark. Like, it was quite late by the time I got there because we got the last train from Tangier to Casablanca, and they just left me outside for ages. I got there, it was like not that clean. I didn't feel that safe. My room smelled awful. There was a really cute cat there. It's literally just the cats are making these hostels so much better. But yeah, no, I would not recommend this hostel. The breakfast was okay. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't great. Transport was easy enough to get to the Medina. I just got on the tram. It was very cheap. The one thing that's cheap in Casablanca. But I did feel unsafe in the Medina because the night before, when my friend was going to her hostel, she had something stolen from her in the Medina. So I was very cautious when I was walking around there. The Medina in Casablanca was very dirty, very busy, smelly. Just it wasn't a nice Medina. For anyone who doesn't know, by the way, Medina is like a city that's built within a wall and normally has like Casbah, which is like the old building, which is normally like not a castle, but like a big style building, basically. I'm not really sure what the exact definition of a Medina is, but basically it's like an old city that's built within a wall. I will say though that the mosque was incredible. If you are in Casablanca, go inside the mosque. It's beautiful. There aren't many hostels in Casablanca and they're all quite expensive. There is a cheaper one in the Medina, which my friend stayed in. I think she said it was okay. I did see it and it looked fine. It was nothing special. I think it was just called Medina Hostel. There was a really, really cute kitten there though, called Cappuccino. Oh, so cute. Honestly, I would recommend skipping Casablanca if you don't have loads of time. I stayed here for 1 night and spent almost £100 on the journey to and from Casablanca, on the accommodation, on everything that I spent there, on the mosque. And £100 to spend in 24 hours in Morocco is a lot. Like, it's a lot. I wouldn't do Casablanca again. Like, honestly, if you really want to go inside a mosque in Morocco, Casablanca is the place. And yes, the mosque is beautiful. Like, it really is beautiful. But I didn't really like anything else about Casablanca. It was expensive and just not worth it. Like, if you're not that obsessed with the idea of going inside a mosque, skip Casablanca. It's not worth the money that you're going to spend. I'd skip Casablanca if I went again. It's 130 dirham for the mosque entry, 140 dirham to include the museum, or 30 dirham for just the museum. If you love a museum, then definitely do it, but I would highly recommend doing the mosque, so you may as well pay an extra 10 dirham to do the museum as well. So Marrakesh, I liked Marrakesh a lot more than I thought I would. I got the train from Casablanca to Marrakesh. The souks were really cool. It wasn't clean, but it wasn't dirty. Like, it was fine. I didn't feel particularly unsafe in the Medina. I felt fine. The only time that I did feel unsafe was when I was on my own walking to my first hostel and it was nighttime. The first hostel that I stayed in was just for one night. It was called the Boho 27 hostel. I wouldn't recommend this hostel. It looks great on Hostel World. It looks so nice, but when you actually get there, it's such a disappointment. It's not very nice. The stairs are really hard to walk up with your bags. They provide lockers. They didn't give me a key, so I had to ask for a key, and he had to spend like 20 minutes looking for a key for me so that I could use a locker. It's not easy to lock up your valuables in this hostel. I got into my bed and there were like hairs in it, which is just not what you want to see when you want to go to bed, like dirty little black hairs in your sheets. I have stayed at worse hostels, but I really didn't like this hostel. The shower was on the rooftop, which I found a little bit weird, so I had to go outside to get to the shower, which is fine. But then like the shower was not nice. There was a window that I couldn't block looking into the shower. So like if someone was outside on the rooftop, it was like at eye height as well. Like they could, like a tall person eye height, but someone could have easily looked in. But yeah, I really didn't like it. I did have breakfast there. I can't remember if that was included or if I paid extra for it. It wasn't anything special, but it wasn't bad. It was like a decent breakfast. They did not make me feel welcome whatsoever when I arrived. I literally felt like unwanted. He also didn't have the right change to give me, so I had to ask him a couple of times like, hey, can I have my change? I really didn't like that hostel. But I loved the second hostel that I stayed in. So I was also very lucky for this hostel, and they kindly gifted me my stay to stay in this hostel as well. It's the Rodamon, and oh my goodness, I have never stayed in a hostel that felt so much like a hotel. It was just, it was beautiful. It was like insane, like it was amazing. And I'm not even saying this because they let me stay there. I honestly loved this hostel. It was like a hotel. Like the sheets were clean, the beds were comfortable, there was a curtain, I had privacy, I had a plug, I had a light in my bed, I had a huge locker to lock my things away. I could hire a padlock because my one didn't work. They made my bed for me every day that I stayed there. The bathroom was clean. The bathroom did actually have a leak on the first day, but that's just plumbing. That's nothing to do with how I rate this hostel. I absolutely loved it. I was in a 6-bed female dorm, but there were only 3 of us in there. It was just so nice. We went out for dinner. We went to, there was like a little square with markets. It's really cool. Everyone is like shouting at you like, hey, come and eat here, come and eat here, come and eat here. We have the best prices, we have the best food. It was a very local experience again. I think I had a couscous. But yeah, it felt very local at least. Like there were some locals eating there, but there were also a lot of tourists. A lot of cats as well, of course. In the Rodamon hostel, the Wi-Fi was so good. It was perfect for teaching. The Wi-Fi was literally better than my Wi-Fi at home. Like it was so good. The breakfast was not included. It was, I think, 60 dirham for the breakfast, but pay that 60 dirham because it is so worth it. The breakfast is huge. I did not need to eat until about 4 p.m. There is a swimming pool as well, so if you want to go swimming, you can. It was too cold when I was there, but if you're there in the summer, I'm sure that that pool would be amazing. Another great thing about this hostel is that they also serve food in the evening as well. So if you don't want to go out, if you don't feel safe going out on your own in the evening, you could just order food from the hostel, and it's pretty decent. It's a little bit more expensive than what you would find out in the Medina, but it's a safe option. It's at the hostel, you don't have to walk anywhere to go and get it, so it's nice to have. And they also have a bar, so you can get some drinks as well. So while you're in Marrakesh, I would definitely recommend going to visit the Secret Garden. It costs 60 dirham if you're 24 and under, and 80 dirham if you're over 24. I'd recommend going to see the Baya Palace. That was 70 dirham for adults. I'd also recommend the Piccola Cafe. It has loads of veggie and vegan options. They have like, I think all of their lattes are served with oat milk or something. And also just explore the Medina. I really liked the Medina in Marrakesh. And there is a new town as well, which is worth exploring. I didn't have too much time to explore the new town, but from what I saw of it, it was very nice. Okay, so now for the desert tour. I paid 990 dirham for the desert tour. That included 2 nights of accommodation, all of the food while we were there. Oh no, except lunch. So it included every breakfast and dinner, but you had to pay for your own lunch. It was a good tour. There were a couple of downsides to it, which I'll explain in a minute, but that was just from a vegan point of view. For everyone else, they loved it. On this particular tour, you can do this without the Rodman hostel. I think a lot of the hostels in the area offer the same tour, or for different prices as well, so do your research a little bit because you can probably get it cheaper than what I paid. I loved the Sahara Desert tour. The first day is a lot of driving, but you do a lot of stop-offs in the mountain areas and Eight Ben Haddou, which is like a very famous location in the Sahara Desert. It's where a lot of TV shows have been filmed, like The Gladiator. The Game of Thrones had scenes filmed there. You go to Ouarzazate, I don't know how you pronounce it, but this place is beautiful. I really enjoyed it there. Oh, that might have been on the second day. I can't remember distinguish between the days, but go check out my desert tour vlog if you want to see in detail what we did. On the first night you stay in a hotel accommodation, and it's okay. Like, it's not a great hotel, but like it's decent enough. You share the rooms with other people who are on the tour with you. There's a shower with hot water, which was nice. They provide soap, they provide a towel, so you don't need to bring soap and towel with you. And then also you can charge your things as well, so make sure that you bring cables to charge things. It was, however, freezing in this hostel. Like, it was so cold. And then when we got to Merzouga, which is the like typical sand dunes that you picture when you think of the Sahara Desert, we stayed in some very, very fancy tents, like very nice tents. There was electricity there, so you could charge your things. However, they turned the electricity off at night. Either that or there was a power cut for the whole night. I'm not really sure. I think that they turned the electricity off, so make sure that if you want to charge things that you charge it early in the evening. And then we had like a cute little campfire sing along in the evening, and then we got up nice and early to walk back during the sunrise. I say walk back because a group of us did walk back. We did not ride the camels. So now I'll explain the downsides of this particular tour. The first downside is that they did not care about vegetarians whatsoever. I had emailed them beforehand asking if they could cater for a vegan diet. They said yes. I was like, brilliant, okay, perfect. And then I also said, I don't want to ride the camels because I don't agree with it. I don't think that it's fair on the camels, so I don't want to ride them. Is there alternative transport that I can take? They said yes, you can take the Jeep. On the tour, both dinners, I had issues with meat. They brought over a tagine for everyone to just dig in and take what they want from. And I was like, oh, is there a vegetarian option coming? And they were like, oh yeah, that is the vegetarian option. I was like, there's chicken in it, that's not vegetarian. And they said, yeah, you just take the vegetables out of it. I said, no, I'm not eating that. Like, I'm not eating chicken juice, that's disgusting. Like, I don't eat meat, I don't want to eat the juices from the meat. That's just as bad as eating the actual meat. They didn't really understand what I was saying. A kind person next to me who was French explained to them in French that I do not eat meat, and they brought me out my own little plate of veggies. It was nothing too extravagant at all. This tour should have catered for vegetarians properly and not just made us pick the veggies off of meat. I don't think that's right. That's not how I would eat at home. They just don't understand it because it's not a thing in their culture, which I get, but also, like, you're a tour company, you should know exactly how vegans and vegetarians in other cultures work. Like, you should respect our wishes. The same thing happened on the next night. They brought out a starter, everyone had some. They brought out the main, it had meat in it. I asked, hi, is there a vegetarian option coming? They said no. I said, well, you've got to go make me some vegetarian food then, because I'm not going hungry. I've paid for this, I'm gonna eat. Found another starter and brought me out that, so that was fine. It was like rice and I want to say like eggplant stuff. I can't really remember. It was okay. It was pretty decent actually. So in the end it was fine, but it's just the fact that they didn't initially cater for vegetarians and vegans. The other part of this tour that I really didn't like was the fact that they forced me to ride a camel. I had spoken to the guide on the first day saying, hi, I don't want to ride the camels. Is that okay? He was like, why? Why don't you want to ride the camels? Are you scared? I should have said yes. Like, if you say I don't want to ride the camels, do not try and explain to them that you're vegan and that you don't agree with it. Just say, I'm scared. I don't want to ride a camel. Just tell them that you're scared, because they don't understand. They don't understand that you don't want to ride the camel for ethical reasons. Again, really, really upset me, this did, because they basically forced me onto a camel. I had asked, can I go in the Jeep? They'd said, yes, it's 10 euros. I was like, sorry, I got told that it was included, like that it was free. Why am I now being told that I have to pay 10 euros to ride in a Jeep? Like, I don't want to pay 10 euros, that's not fair. Anyway, in the end, I was like, okay, like I'll pay it. So I asked them, I was like, okay, I'm gonna come in the Jeep. And they were like, oh, sorry, you can't, it's full. I was like, sorry, what? They put everyone's bags in the Jeep, so there was no space for me. I think one girl got to go in the Jeep, but there was no other space. I was so mad. And then I was like, well, I'm gonna walk then. So I spoke to a guide and I said, hi, can I walk? He was like, no, you have to ride the camel. I was like, please, I don't want to ride the camel, I want to walk. He was like, why? Like, just ride the camel. And he was like, miss, please get on the camel. Like, they literally forced me onto the camel. I'm getting angry just thinking about this. Yeah, I cried for a good 10 minutes of that camel ride. I was not happy. I was so angry at the guide and the tour company for making me ride a camel when I did not agree with it. Like, as I said before, I had respected all of their cultures, so it made me really angry that they didn't respect my values. I do not think that they treated the camels well. I know that a lot of people will comment on this video who are Moroccan, as they have in my past videos, saying yes, but that's like, they do treat them well, and this is like how they make their money, and they do look after the camels, they feed them, the camels wouldn't get fed without this, and like all of this stuff, but like, I don't agree with it. These camels have a rope tied around their bottom jaw. And they're pulled along by their jaw. It's not nice. The camel got into a fight during the camel ride. They're obviously not happy camels. You can hear them like crying, or like, it's just, they're not happy. They're not well taken care of. I could see that. They don't want to be forced to stand up and sit down when they get told to let a tourist on and off of them. They don't want to do it. So yeah, okay, I need to stop talking about this now because I'm gonna cry. On the way back, luckily I had somehow convinced a group of other people to walk with me. Some of them were sore from riding the camel, so they didn't want to do it again. Some of them just wanted to walk. As a group, we just didn't get on the camels and they let us walk. Like, it was absolutely no issue in the morning. I don't understand what the issue was the night before, but yeah, it was fine. Like, it wasn't the easiest thing, but it wasn't hard. So anyway, I was not happy about the tour for that. So if you are vegan, I don't even know what to say, jump in that Jeep and just, yeah, find a company that actually respects you and will give you vegan things. I will say, if you are doing the desert tour, ask to stay for an extra night in Mazuga. I didn't know that you could do this, but a girl who was there said that she paid, I think, 25 euros more to stay an extra night, but it meant that you got to see the sand dunes and everything during the day, and I did not feel like we had enough time in Mazuga, so definitely pay an extra 25 euros. You get the breakfast and the dinner included. I can't remember if she said lunch, but I don't know. Anyway, you get just a whole day in the desert, in the sand dunes, and I definitely think that that would have been worth it. I really wish that I knew that you could do that. Hello again. Sorry about the sudden change of probably lighting, my outfit. It's about an hour and a half later. I had to wait for my camera battery to recharge. So yeah, I'm just gonna pick up where I left off. I was about to talk about Essaouira. I loved Essaouira. It was absolutely beautiful. It's a little seaside town. The Medina was lovely. It was so calm. Like, if you picture just like how people are at the seaside, people are just generally calmer than in cities. It was just like, yeah, that surfer vibe, like everything's so chilled. There is a fish market, so if you eat fish, it's really good. Like, you get fresh fish. If you are like me and you're vegan or vegetarian, it's not so pretty, it smells bad, but that's only one area, so the rest of it is lovely. And to be honest, I still found it interesting to walk around the fish markets and see like what they sell. I like experiencing cultures, and even though I don't eat the food, I still wanted to see what it was all about, so I still went and had a look. They have forts there, little fort things, towers. My hostel that I was staying at was the Essaouira Beach Hostel, and again, I loved it. Honestly, like, these hostels in Morocco, people are so nice. Like, they're very generous and the hospitality is amazing. But the guy who like runs the hostel and was very friendly, very kind. A lovely hostel, I'd definitely recommend it. It was really nice. I didn't have any complaints. Again, we had a curtain, you had your own light, charger, a huge locker underneath your bed. They had some entertainment one evening. The guy who runs the hostel also invited me and a couple of people that I was with to join him with Ramadan. So we actually woke up at 3:30 in the morning or something like that to eat. We ate with him in the morning and then we fasted throughout the day and then ate in the evening. As I say, I really liked this hostel. I would definitely recommend staying there. It was again very cheap. I can't remember how much. I want to say it was about £6 a night. So yes, if you are looking to learn to kite surf, Essaouira is definitely the place for you. You can get a lot of kite surfing lessons. I actually didn't go there on this trip, but the first time that I visited Morocco in 2017, I went here, and it is Taghazout. This is a well-known surfing village. It's honestly, again, it's very much like Essaouira. It's a very chill vibe. I love it. I learnt to surf here. If you're looking to learn to surf, Taghazout is definitely the place to be. Agadir is where I flew home from, so I got the bus from Essaouira to Agadir. It was about, I think it was meant to be like 3.5 hours and it took us like under 3 because our bus driver just flew. It's a very mountainous journey, so if you get car sick then keep that in mind. So is the journey from Fez to Chefchaouen. That's a very windy journey, so again keep that in mind if you do get car sick. Yeah, Agadir, like there's just not a lot going on in Agadir for tourists. There's no hostels, it was just hotels, so I actually shared a hotel room with one of my friends that I met. There was also a market that we tried to go to, but it shut down really early, I presume because of Ramadan. I think that's also why there was nothing on, because we were there during Ramadan, so all the food places were closed except like a couple of local ones that were open for locals to break the fast. I'm sure if you go there you could find something to do, but honestly it really was just a stopover to get to the airport. I would probably recommend flying home from Marrakesh rather than Agadir, because then you can make Marrakesh your last stop of the trip. If you have loads of time, then why not go to Agadir for a night? But yeah, I would suggest just skipping Agadir.
I am actually going to break this Morocco guide up into 2 parts because it was a very long video. So that is the end of part 1. Make sure you stay tuned for part 2, where I will be going through what I spent in Morocco, what to wear as a female in Morocco, a desert packing list, and just some general tips for backpacking Morocco. Give this video a thumbs up if it has helped you, subscribe to see more videos, and I will see you next time. Bye!